Welcome to the Julie Laughton Living podcast, the place to get advice, tips, and tricks to building the life and luxury home of your dreams with 30-year business owner, designer, and builder, Julie Laughton. It all starts with a good plan. This is Julie Laughton Living.
Welcome back to another episode of Julie Laughton Living, the podcast where I tell you everything you would possibly want to know about remodeling or building a new home ground up. I have many tips, 35 years of experience doing this as a true one-stop shop. I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I've witnessed it all. So there's nothing I haven't seen or done or experienced. And it's kind of fascinating because this whole process boils down to following a process. So on that note, before we get started, don't forget to check out my 7 simple steps to a successful remodel and new build. And the show notes are in the link below. It's on my julielaughtonliving.com website. And then, of course, my own website has a ton of tips and photos and pictures and all kinds of ideas. And then my Instagram, of course, and my Facebook have even more. So don't forget to check out everything. And it's all in the show notes below. And thank you. So our topic for today is space planning. We kind of talked about this a little bit on one of the other podcasts before this, because space planning, no one thinks about it, but that's how it all works. So space planning is where it starts. It happens in the architectural phase. So if you don't have space planning, your house is not going to function for you. It's not going to function. Like, you're literally going to bump into things and not be able to function. Like, space planning is part of the kitchen design, the bathroom design, but it's the part of the whole plans process. So today's topic is space planning, and here we go. So today's living requires opening spaces. So space planning is huge in how we function today. Space planning 100 years ago, or at the turn of the century, was completely different because people lived different and there was no focus on the kitchen, the bathroom, and it was all utilitarian and blah, blah, blah. So now we have modern living, today's living. In order to achieve this, we need to do space planning. So every client of mine starts with, I draw the floor plan of the existing home. So I get the as-built. It's called the as-built. And then I do my flimsy overlay, and we start doing space planning, because space planning is ultimately the bones of the structure and how it's going to function for you, the homeowner. So the first thing I do in the architectural phase is space planning. And space planning is a trained art. It's not something you guess at, because people that guess at it, you can tell when it's done because it's wrong. So space planning is huge. That was a huge part of my college education and my first 4 years in working for architects in New York City. So space planning is everything down to the walls, the windows, the cabinets, the hallways, everything that about that house, and then including where the house is set on the lot. So, you place the house on the lot in new construction, and then you work on the space plan. How does it flow? How does it function? It's the most important thing. So if your architect isn't good at this and your designer isn't good at this, you're toast, because the end product will show. And it's horrible when something's actually built and it doesn't function. But if they're not good at space planning, you're not going to have good plans. So it's like a magical step that has to be done, the very first actual step after you discuss your dreams of your home. So my career has kind of focused on vintage homes and remodeling. I love doing new construction. I love doing the huge mammoth homes. I started my career actually doing the larger homes when I first moved to California. And then I kind of graduated into, okay, I'm going to focus on, homes that are in need of remodeling, because I kind of got into the remodeling heavier because I'm good at that and I'm good at space planning. So the architectural element of a vintage home is not built for modern living. So every single home I have done that's vintage, which we all love, has been modified inside to create a living space that works for the homeowner in their today's life and what's going on to how people live today. So not only do we modify the interior, we add on, and when I'm done with it, it looks like it was meant to be, of course, but it's modernized by blowing out walls, opening up the back of the house, opening it up to the yard, and then adding onto it too. So it's a whole thing about modernizing vintage, but still keeping the charm. So it's fun. So I think my most favorite one, some of my favorite ones, I should say, and the most favorite one I have is the one I'm doing now. I just finished it. It's a 1928 cottage bungalow built by my client's father back in 1928, and it's a quintessential cottage. And then he added on in the 80s a master suite, but it's literally a 1,200 square foot cottage. And what we did is that little cottage was broken into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rooms. And now we have one great room, 3 bedrooms, and that kitchen is open to the great room, and then a little side kitchen. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms now. So I blew out the inside. There's no walls when you walk in anymore because I used to have a porch and all that, and a separate kitchen with a door to the living room. So I blew it out. So when you walk in the front door, you look right through the living room, past a vintage cabinet the father built, and you can see the kitchen and the banquette area. And then to the right around the cabinet is the rest of the kitchen, the functioning part of the kitchen. And then behind that is the master suite. And the 2 bedrooms are off to the right when you walk in the front door. So that simple process of cleaning out the walls on the inside, it now is functioning for modern today's living. It was a ton of structural work, but it now looks proper for today, but it's still 100% vintage, and the outside style of the home and the overall feel is 100% vintage from when it was built. So it still has its charm. It hasn't lost the cottage charm, but it functions on the inside now. Oh yeah, that's what we did at this one. So the original house had single wall construction, and you walked in and all the ceilings were 8 foot flat. And they were all dropped with this creepy, I don't even know what it was. It's not even drywall. I guess it was just like a plywood, some kind of material from back then. Anyway, we took that out and we vaulted the ceilings so that all the ceilings follow the roof line. So now all the ceilings have a 15-foot vault. And of course, to make it extra special, we clad them in wood, T&G wood, and faux beams and real beams. So now you walk in, it's like, boom, it's glorious. So what happens when you add the volume to the ceiling? It doubles the size of the space. Even though you're not changing the square footage of the floor square footage, the volume makes it feel twice as big. So high vaulted ceilings are wonders, do wonders. It doubles the feeling of the size of the space. So that's a huge trick to make your house feel bigger, is open the ceilings. And, doing all this requires architecture and structural engineer. And again, my training is architecture, landscape, mechanical engineering, space planning, interior design. I'm unique. I mean, I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm unique. And I do all that, but I can't do any of that without my structural engineer. So I don't think people realize that what makes plans permittable at the city, like what gets us the stamp, is the structural engineer. So I have a structural engineer I've worked with over 20 years, and he is the one I talk to the most during the plan process. I'm doing the drawing, and then he's helped telling me what I can and can't do. So we meet day one, and then we meet throughout the process. And just so you know, you can't do these structural changes without the structural engineer, and the city won't let you. And I can't do it. I mean, he has to tell me, what I can and can't do. And it's all has to do with codes and endless different reasons in California for earthquake and seismic and lateral and shear. So all this complicated stuff's involved, but the structural engineer is the one that makes the magic happen, allows for the magic to happen. So in closing, the whole trick to modern living is to open the floor plan. That's what modern living is, open space planning, space planning to make your house function for today's living, which means blowing out walls. Some people keep the kitchen off to the side or around a corner, but most people have the kitchen, the bar, the island, all kind of together in a great room. Then you have your TV and your entertainment area. And then that's all seamlessly connected to an outdoor view of the ocean or an outdoor glorious backyard with a pool or just an outdoor area. So that doubles the space also. So the trick is opening up your living space inside and then opening it up to the outdoors as well. that's kind of the secret to success, to designing modern day living, is all about opening the space up inside and opening it up to the outside. So that's the trick. And that's what we do on every job. So thank you again for joining me in another episode of Julie Laughton Living. I'm so happy to share my stories and my tips and all the secrets to a successful project and how to do it and how to do it right. So on that note, don't forget to check out my 7 simple steps to a successful remodel, and the link to that website is in the show notes below. And also look for my Instagram and my Facebook for more pictures and tips and inspiration. And again, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Julie Laughton Living. Thanks a million.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Julie Laughton Living. For more information or to connect with Julie one-on-one, visit julielaughtonliving.com. And don't forget, it all starts with a good plan.